We'll call to the order the January 11, 2018 meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Yes, good afternoon. Directors Campion, Carr, Fox,
Here.
Frost,
Here.
Gatewood,
Here.
Guerra, Hanson, Harris,
Here.
Howell,
Here.
Hume,
Here.
Natoli,
Here.
Peters,
Here.
Chenier,
Here.
Cerna,
Here.
Suen,
Here.
Kennedy,
Here.
and you have a quorum.
Thank you.
This meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, January 14th at 2 p.m. and Tuesday, January 16th at noon on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located at the back of chambers and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. If you have any electronic devices, please silence them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, first item.
Our first item is election of chair and vice chair for 2018.
Okay, before we actually do that and I hand over the gavel, I just wanted to say that it's been a real pleasure being the chair this past year. I think that this board can be very proud, regardless of what you may read elsewhere, about some very, very good work. The staff, the changes that have been made in the past year, I think have made this a stronger body, and I think that we're on the right footing to really do what we're expected to do and protect the public's money and improve the transportation network in Sacramento County. So thank you for the opportunity. With that.
And just before you get away, I want to thank you for leading all the changes that needed to take place. It's not what you want to do when you become chair and you have other plans, but you took the right path there. We thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. With that, is there a motion to elect the new governing board chair? Move what?
Stuff for grab. I'm sorry, are we just doing chair or are we doing
Chair first.
chair? I'd like to nominate Jeff.
Second.
Your microphone.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. Jeff Harris has been nominated as the new chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Patrick. I'd also like to thank you. You've taken a real leadership position with STA, and we're definitely better for it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, nominations are now open for vice chair. Norm, just as a point of fact, is there any change, is there any restrictions as to jurisdiction for vice chair?
There are no restrictions, although by tradition it's alternated between the county and the cities.
Exactly.
But that's just tradition.
Oh, so then
So any
Is there anybody that's interested?
at
Yeah.
the county? I will.
So,
Okay, I would nominate Susan Peters.
And I will second that.
very good. Any other nominations? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Susan Peters for vice chair? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I vote twice? Aye.
Abstentions?
Captain.
Very good. Susan Peters is vice chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, as the new chair, you should also designate someone to sit on the ITALC.
Exactly. So, barring objection from Ms. Peters, I would like to designate Robert Holderness as my designee on the ITALC. I think he's done an
Vice Chair
exemplary job.
enthusiastically agrees.
Yes.
Very good. Robert, if you are willing to stay on the ITALC, we would appreciate your services.
I would be honored to serve. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, that one's taken care of. Next item would be number 2, comment items. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on something not on the agenda? I don't have any speaker slips, so seeing none, we'll go on to Director's Report.
Happy New Year. Since today's agenda is packed, as you know, I'm just going to keep it very, very brief and just give you an update on what happened with the formula shares from SB1. As you recall, on December, at our last meeting in December, I indicated that the final shares that were allocated to Sacramento County was actually $72,000 less than we had anticipated. And so instead of $6.983 million, we will be receiving $6.911 million. Now, CTC has indicated that they will proportionally reduce each of the agency's shares, but they also required that we resubmit all of the project nomination forms. And so with the help of all of your staffs, we were able to do that by yesterday's deadline. And so those shares have been published, and I have included the forms, the shares on your dais. Those were just published, and so and the SCA shares are listed in yellow. I think it's interesting to see what some of the other agencies around the state are spending their local partnership formula shares on. So that's just for your information. But that concludes my executive director's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is consent. So we have two items on consent, number 4 and number 5. Do we have any discussion about consent items? Any concerns, comments? I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I'll move consent. Second.
Who moved?
I just take your pick. One of the guys from Elk Grove.
Let's call it Director Hume and Director Soon. All right, all those in favor of consent? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving right along.
Okay, item number 6, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, June 30th, 2017, an independent financial and compliance audit for fiscal year 2016-17.
Welcome, Joe.
Good afternoon. This is our annual comprehensive audit that was done by outside counsel, Richardson and Company. And just a couple of things that I want to highlight on this report. The first being that there were absolutely no findings. And I think you should be very happy about that. That's rare. There's at least something somewhere, and there were no findings on the audit this year, which means staff and the board were doing a great job. The other thing that I wanted to highlight here is that if you'll recall, last year the admin fund ended up with a negative balance of over $196,000. And this year the balance is in the positive to the tune of $3,000. So that's also a very good accomplishment to have dealt with in the course of 1 year. Having said that, I don't think there's anything else that I want to highlight from the ITOX perspective. We got a very detailed report from the auditors at our last meeting last week and went through all the different sheets, and we were very pleased with what we saw.
Thank you.
Very good. Any comments from directors?
I just wanted to thank Joan for diving into this and all your work on it. Just focusing on financial statements is a special skill. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very good. I have one comment for Norm. Taking the admin fund from a negative to a positive is, I think, reflective of a lot of work of staff, and so I'd like to congratulate you and staff altogether for turning a positive result there. That's really great news.
Thank you. It's been a challenge, and it's required the cooperation of all three of us working together. But we're committed to living frugally and within what the ordinance allows for us to.
Great. Frugality is a word I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
Next item, please.
Item number 7 is replacement liquidity facility for Series 2015A bonds.
So my name's Tim Jones. I'm the County Finance Manager, for those of you that may not know. I provided you a staff report, but I'll just give you a bullet point version of that staff report to keep this concise. We have a liquidity facility for our 2015A bonds that is expiring in March of 2018. And Mizuho Bank, which holds that facility, is exiting the market. Therefore, authority staff worked with our financial consultant to develop an RFP that was sent to 11 commercial banks on December 11th. We received 6 bids by the January 3rd deadline, some of which are quite competitive, and we are currently reviewing those recent bids and evaluating our debt portfolio in light of them. We are also monitoring the municipal bond market under the new tax reform, and we plan on coming back to the board in February with recommendations based on market analysis and further analysis of the bids we received. Do you have any questions I could answer for you at this time?
Any questions, comments? And this item is continued.
And this item would be continued until our next meeting in February.
Do you need a motion?
A motion to continue this item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do
I'll
need.
move.
Second.
Okay, very good. Moved by Director Hanson, seconded by Director
Howell?
Howell. Yeah, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. And now we're on to the main event. Before we do that, I'd kind of like to sketch out how we'd like to do this process. Norm and I talked it over a couple of days ago. So first, we'd like to have an oral report from staff. Next, to ensure that all the members understand the projects and the process, we have a lot of staff members here available to answer questions about their projects. We have Lucinda Wilcox, and did Sparky make it? He's on his way. From the county, we have Dan Schuman and Ron Vicari. From Rancho Cordova, Albert Stricker. The connector, Derek Minima. And we also have someone from the CTC, Matthew Yoscott, and Tim Taylor and Paul Philly from their quality board. So we'll have the oral report. We can ask questions. I'm sure you've all read the staff report, and of course we had the presentations at the last meeting, which were pretty thorough. So I imagine you're all pretty familiar. Then I have one public comment, one speaker signed up to speak. After that, we'll just discuss the merits, strengths and weaknesses of the 6 proposals, just general discussion amongst the directors. And then we'll take a straw poll, and staff will lead us through that. I believe you're going to project the results up on the screen. If there's any ensuing discussion, and then after that, we'll take a motion to see where we can get to. So we actually have a process here, and let's see where it takes us. So please, the staff report.
Okay. Last month, your board was introduced to 6 projects that are being nominated through the STA for the Local Partnership Program, competitive grant program. Today, you're being asked to prioritize those projects from 1 through 6. But before we go any further, I'd like to point out several things that are on the dais in front of you. The first of those is a letter from the Air Quality Management District. The letter is urging the board to consider bicycle and pedestrian improvements as providing more air quality benefits. Next is a series of letters that we received yesterday and today in support of the Downtown 3.0 Grid project. So if you could take a look at those. After that is, I decided to go ahead and provide you the full set of the LPP guidelines. And in the copies that I provided for you, I've actually included highlights in yellow that are not part of the guidelines, but that which I put in because I think those are the relevant sections that impact you, and I'll be referring to those in my presentation. And then at the bottom of your packets is the recommended procedure that the chair had gone through, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So in this initial cycle of the LPP, it encompasses the first 3 years of funding for a total of $300 million statewide for transportation construction projects, and the emphasis there is on construction. As the name implies, this is a competitive program, and but even so, one of the program's stated objectives is to spread the money around. And so, looking at your guidelines, looking at on page 1 of the guidelines, the last sentence of the last highlighted sentence reads, the Commission intends this program to balance the needs to direct increased revenues to the state's highest transportation needs while fairly distributing the economic impact of increased funding. And on other pages, the guidelines also talk about geographic balance. So we do know that even though this is a competitive program, the CTC does have an eye towards balancing projects geographically. And that's a very good thing, especially for us here in Sacramento County. Let me direct you to the middle of page 7. These are the types of projects that are eligible for the local partnership program competitive pot. And I believe that all 6 of the nominated projects qualify under Section D, which are improvements to the local road system, including major roadway rehab, resurfacing, and reconstruction, or new construction and facilities that increase capacity, improve mobility, or enhance safety, or are safety or operational improvements that are intended to reduce accidents and fatalities. I think elements of all 6 projects also qualify under Section E, which is for bicycle and pedestrian safety improvements and mobility improvements as well. So I think all 6 of the projects that are nominated qualifies under Sections D and E, according to the CTC guidelines. Next, I'd like to direct you to page 9. So Section 16, these are the 6 criteria that the CTC has published as their evaluation criteria. They're looking for projects that are cost-effective, projects that can be completed or started or completed sooner, projects that leverage more other funds, projects that demonstrate air quality benefits, reductions in vehicle miles traveled, projects that have widespread community support, and since we are within SACOG's MPO, projects that further their sustainable community strategy. And so if you take a look at Table 2, which is in your packet, which is this large 11 by 17 sheet, this is the table that Ms. Howell asked for at the last meeting, which is basically all of the project proponents provided the answers, and I condensed them and put them into this one table for you to be able to see all the projects together on one sheet. Keep in mind that these are the responses by the agencies, and these are still in preliminary form. The applications have not been written. That will be the next step after your board prioritizes the projects. And I think that's really where there's going to be a lot more work involved. Each application will be about 25 pages or up to 25 pages, and will require that each of the project proponents also conduct a benefit cost analysis using the Caltrans life cycle model. They'll also be required to quantify their air quality impacts in the application itself. So about the task at hand today, which is to prioritize projects. If you turn with me to page 8 in section 14, right there in the middle, it says that the agency submitting multiple project applications must clearly prioritize its projects. And this is reiterated a couple of other times within the guidelines, and I actually did talk with CTC staff about whether we actually if we had to do this. And their answer was yes, we do have to prioritize projects. Now, my understanding from talking with CTC is that the way that they'll use our priorities is well, basically every project that is nominated will compete against all other projects that are nominated. However, if there's a situation where STA-nominated projects compete against other STA-nominated projects, they will look at our local priorities to provide more preference to one project over another. Okay. So,
question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we could submit all the projects, but in case of a tie on our projects, they want a prioritization.
That's correct. And in fact, we are submitting all 6 projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Director Natoli.
Yep, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll wait till he's done with his presentation. I wanted to ask questions when
Okay.
he may answer. He's answered one
We'll put you
question.
first in the queue.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. However, I also wanted to point out that there's another possibility, and that is located on the bottom of page 8, and you'll see the yellow highlighted text. It says that the commission may elect to only evaluate the highest priority applications submitted by each agency. And the way that I read that is that the CTC evaluation criteria in this case actually becomes less important, and that our local priorities become more important in selecting projects. That's a possibility. And so, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, just one more note before we talk about how we're going to proceed forward. I just wanted to let you know that, assuming that there are no changes to SB1, we'll be doing this again in about a year and a half. So this current cycle covers 3 years. It covers 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20. But we will be coming back in the fall of 2019 to program fiscal years 2021 and 21-22. So this is, barring anything unforeseen happening, we'll have another shot at this, and every 2 years going forward. So as the chair had already pointed out, we do have a recommended procedure, and that is also included in the papers in front of you. One thing that I would like to continue to maybe point out is that the straw poll, the informal poll that we're talking about, that is purely unofficial. That is only to provide a framework for your discussion and to help guide your discussion. And if the board elects to do that, staff is prepared to help you through that. The way that it would work is that there is a ballot that is in front of each of you. That's that blue sheet. The very last page in front of you, that's a ballot. The way that the poll would work is that each member that wants to would provide their priorities from 1 through 6, with 1 being the highest priority. And then that would be given over to the board clerk, who would read them aloud. Meanwhile, I would project those scores. Can we show that, Amanda? Mm-hmm. We would project those scores as they come in on the spreadsheet. And when all of the scores are submitted, then the spreadsheet would actually display the composite scores, and then it would automatically show what the preliminary ranking of the projects are. Okay. So that's one option for the board, if you would like to do that.
But given that I suspect we're going to have to do this several times, is there maybe another alternative, because we don't have 6 or 7 copies of this?
Sorry, no, didn't you also develop tie-breaking criteria and so forth?
Yes,
procedures? Okay.
And so part of the spreadsheet...
Which may cut down on the need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I built in 6 different tiebreakers in the formulas. The first tiebreaker is, let's say 2 projects have the same score. The first tiebreaker would go to the project that has more number 1 votes. The second tiebreaker would go against the project that has more number 6 votes. The third tiebreaker would go to the project that has more number 2 votes, and so forth and so forth.
And you've got a computer tallying all this, right?
It's this one right here, and it's the one that's being projected. That's correct.
His name's Tim.
Yeah. So is that clear to all the directors? Let's just see where the process leads us, because we're going to have to sort this out, and this seems like a pretty good process.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The only question I have, and not having heard from any of the board members, but do we think this complicated process is necessary at this point? Because I've never seen a board go through a process like this. Usually there's some will of the body that helps clearly articulate what the decision is easier.
Well, that would probably come to light in the first discussion. So we may not, it's elective. I agree with you. If there's a clear consensus amongst the board, we might not have to go through this process, but it's a lot of choices. I've never seen it either, but then I've never been asked to prioritize 6 things in one agenda item. So how about this?
For the sake of conversation, I know that there are 2 projects that I've been talked to about the most by the public, Certainly the Grid 3.0 project, given the constituency that I represent, but the other one is the Southwest Connector. And so...
Southeast.
Huh?
Southeast.
Southeast, sorry.
Well, so you've certainly made your preference.
That's a future
So-
phase,
so
Jerry.
Let
We could
me
do that
go
one
through
too.
it here, Steve, and this can come out in discussion, but first I want to see if people have questions
Let me
of
just
staff.
finish my thought. So once we have our public comment and have some conversation, I think the board should have a little back and forth and then see if this process is necessary.
Understood.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get there. All right? Fair enough. Director Natoli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions for Norm. One, I just want to be clear on the chart. So you spoke to the cost-benefit analysis, which is one of the measures. So was there a particular guidance on how that was to be performed? Because on a couple of the projects that are on the list, it talks about the project's capacity and merits and so forth, but there really wasn't a calculation, maybe, because I don't know if that task was given. You mentioned that had to be done before the CTC would review or consider the project. So what do we have here in this chart? Is this something that was a task? Was this done by the various entities just based upon kind of the normal submittals, or was there a task that was given and then for a couple projects it wasn't clear enough at this point to actually make that assessment?
Your second point is exactly correct. These are this is the information that the local project proponents prepared as part of the normal delivery project proposal process. So these are strictly their numbers. And we do have, after today, we do have until January 30th to submit the applications. And at that point, I think, well, prior to that, the local agencies will be doing more in-depth analysis specific to what these projects are. For example, there are both the White Rock Road and the Capital Connector project. These cost-benefit analyses numbers are for the entire project at completion. And so they would actually have to do another analysis just for the work that they
Do
are
an apportionment for the work that's being proposed under this. Okay, that's important, because that was a part of my question. Another question then, it relates to what's been submitted. All of these, obviously, we saw them a month ago, and they're before us today, came with a particular figure. Was there, as it relates to $5 million or $10 million or $20 million, and the requirement, obviously, for the one-to-one match was prerequisite. But what about, for today's purposes, you recognize, obviously, people submitted what they believe they need for. They've got their matches calculated at least a minimum one-to-one. Does this body, in its review, so we're being asked to prioritize, but part of that is then, when we've got maybe 11, if we're lucky, maybe 11 million or something a little less than that available to us, at least by what we understand, at least in going into this, is that something we can consider? Again, not to do it arbitrarily, but, as folks come up and answer any other questions about their project, because they've asked for what they believe they need to complete these phases and or the projects themselves. Is there any room for this board to, certainly we can inquire, but to consider, again, as we're looking at that, looking at what the prospective pot is, at least at the marker that's out there, knowing that we can ask for more and hopefully get more. But so I guess I'm curious about that, what we have here before us.
I think so. Over the next 2 weeks before the applications are actually due, I think that's kind of a luxury for us that our board is actually taking this action today, because I think there is some flexibility, and I think this is probably something that you could ask each of the project sponsors about, whether they can amend their projects higher or lower to fit perhaps what the board would prefer to see. So I think that's probably not a question for me, but
Okay.
But for the project sponsors.
Okay. And then just one other comment, Mr. Chair. I do think that what you've outlined here, certainly, allowing for discussion prior to doing that, but I think taking some sort of a straw poll that would help to narrow it down and maybe very clear on a 1 through 6, or everybody's just got one and that's what they're going to stick with. But I do think that what you've outlined here is probably a pretty good way to, after we've had a chance to deliberate some, to get a good handle on it, because we're being asked to prioritize. Maybe everybody gets to number 1, but then what about 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? That may be all over the map. So I think the process you've outlined is one that we ought to at least give strong consideration to using today.
Okay, thank you, Director. Did you have any other comments, Steve? Okay, so at this point, Do any directors have questions of staff? Are there any aspects of the various projects that you need to clarify, or you're happy with the reports? All good? No questions to staff. Okay. Well, I thank you all for coming anyway. But, you know, we may call on you down the road. So what I'm hearing is that I actually have a question for the gentleman from the Matthew Yoscott from the CTC. There's a lot of flexibility here. He is here, right? There he is. Thanks. In essence, we're not guaranteed that our prioritization will be used. Is that correct? It could be that the CTC will evaluate projects and not rely on the local prioritization. Or if you do go to it, what will be the most important aspects that you're looking for? You want to come up to the mic?
Sure. Let me introduce Matthew Yoscott with the CTC. He is the Associate Deputy Director at CTC, and he's in charge of the Local Partnership Program. He's also the staff person that I've been working with and having discussions with regarding our program. I invited him here today to observe our process to see how the locals implement statewide guidelines, but he's also indicated that he was willing to address questions that you might have. So, Matthew Yoscott.
Thank you. Your first question about how will the prioritization be used. So right now we don't know how many applications we're going to receive because obviously they're due by January 30th, and you know there are several eligible agencies throughout the state. So and I can't put a number on it because we also have other SB1 programs that will be due at the end of this month and in the middle of February. You know, if we're inundated with projects to review and we have a very specific timeline to make recommendations before the May adoption of the competitive program, we will have to look at top prioritization very closely. If it comes down to, you know, if we have agencies submitting 5, 6, 10 applications and we receive 500 applications in total, I can tell you right now that it would be very difficult for us to look at all 500. So, you know, other than that, it's very feasible that we do review and evaluate every single project as well. I can't, like I said, put a total number on how many applications it would be to mean that we would do that. So I hope that answers that question.
It does. It helps. Any other questions of Mr. Yoscott from the CTC?
I have a question.
Director Frost, go
Forgot
ahead.
where it was. On this page 8, it's talking about the competitive program evaluation and the commission will give higher priority. Is it giving higher priority in this order, or are all of these given higher priority?
So
in other words,
are you referencing the scoring criteria? So section 16.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm on a different page. You know, and I'll be honest with you, I'm brand new to the commission staff. Actually, Norm invited me to observe how this would go down. So what I can say is, you know, at this point, it's hard. I wouldn't imagine that there would be a priority given to any of these scoring criteria. We haven't seen any competitive applications yet, but the scoring will be defined and there will be a committee of reviewers so that it is an objective process.
No, I'm talking about it says the commission will give higher priority to the projects that are most cost effective.
Correct.
So projects that, I don't think I'm understanding what you're saying. I'm asking, is most cost effective going to get
like
higher
first
priority?
No. These are all of equal importance.
Equal importance. Okay.
That's correct. Sorry about the misunderstanding.
That's all right. No, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, we will take public comments. So that would be Mr. Will Kempton. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members of the authority, Will Kempton with the Greater Folsom Partnership, which in Folsom happens to be pretty much the Chamber of Commerce. We just have a fancy name for it. I wanted to say it's a pleasure to see so many friendly faces. I've worked with many of you over the past years, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time this afternoon because you have a difficult task ahead, but I do want to speak in support of a high priority designation for the Capital Southeast Connector Project as a candidate for the competitive piece of the local partnership program under SB1. And I make my comments today for 4 basic reasons. First of all, and these are some of the competitive issues that are addressed in your staff report and are included, as a matter of fact, in what the Commission has identified as issues that they will be looking at. The first is leverage. I know from experience the Commission always likes to see skin in the game, and obviously with respect to the connector project, we're looking at a $20 million application for a $40 million project, which will be paid for primarily with local and private funding. The economic impact of this project is huge. It serves the area in the Sacramento region with the largest private sector employment base in our region. The third reason is reduced congestion. We're looking at a shift primarily in the Highway 50 corridor of 38 million vehicle miles traveled in congestion reduction, and that's a very, very significant impact on a highly congested major arterial in the region, which will have a significant benefit in the ability of moving people and goods. Tendon air quality benefits. There's an active transportation component of this overall project, which I think is very important. And the final point I would make is consistency with the region's sustainable community strategy. I think all of those are very important from a local as well as a statewide perspective, and for these reasons I would urge your consideration of designating the Southeast Connector project as a high priority under this particular program of SB1.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kempton, thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, why don't we just talk it over? Who wants to go first? So, all right, go ahead, Pat. Director Hugh.
So are we kind of revealing our cards with respect to our straw poll here, or
Well, so
went them down the list, or what?
Mr. Henson made a suggestion that maybe if we discover that we have strong priorities and they correspond with one another, we might not have to do a straw poll and go through that exercise. So, yeah, if we don't show our cards now, we're about to in a straw poll. So
You might want to hold them, you might want to fold them.
That's right. Or walk.
I want to walk away. I might want to run.
Or run. So yeah, I would say this is the time to start talking about what is more meaningful to you in terms of prioritization.
So beyond being more meaningful to me, in my ranking, I ranked them as projects that I would be most likely to use or that would have an effect on me. But also, it's all about you. Well, you know, I got to start somewhere. I don't want to disparage anyone's project.
It's all about you.
I know that for many of you, projects that I wouldn't prioritize are high priorities for you. So I don't want to disparage them. I'm just going to talk about the project that I ranked number 1, which is the project that Mr. Kempton just spoke about. I think that given this first round of funding and given how competitive it's going to be and what an onslaught of applications that the CTC is going to have to sift through, only one project that has been brought forward on our list is multi-agency, so it shows regional cooperation, has applied for an infra grant, and so therefore shows eligibility of receiving an infra grant, which is even more matching dollars being brought to the table, and works towards implementing that SCS strategy by reducing those VMTs and providing environmental mitigation, and already has all of its environmental clearances and ready for construction. So I've got the Capital Southeast Connector number 1. I can go down through my list if we'd like to do that exercise, but I do have the grid as number 2 because, again, I think that is a project that probably has the most applicability to things that the CTC might be looking at grading.
What did you say is number 2?
Very good.
My number 3
Hanson.
was White Rock Road.
Director Hanson?
Number 2 is the grid, and 3 was White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I probably predictably think that because a lot of the region comes through the central city, and there's a lot of benefits to improving our downtown grid, that too is a regional project that has a significant impact, particularly because it does emphasize air quality benefits, biking, walking, active transportation. So that clearly is in that center line of what the CTC, and I think indeed what SB1 is looking for. So I think that's great, but like Director Hume, I've heard the most, and I haven't, and maybe we'll begin to keep I don't know what the right way to say this. I haven't always had a favorable view of the connector as it competes for regional funds, but I think in this particular instance, it is the most likely other best competitor for this particular pot of money. And so based on, and I've peppered Norm with questions. I've asked our staff a ton of questions about all the projects. I think those are the two most competitive. So I would rank them probably the same as Mr. Hume, except I would end up with a different number 3 in that I think Hazel is a very important project as well. And we've heard about that one before. So if there's some consensus, I would suggest to the board around number 1 and number 2, then we can get to the 3, 4, 5, and 6. But if there's not, then we probably have to revert.
Thank you, Director Hansen. So Eric Guerra punched up. Of course, he's sick today, so I'm thinking that might be you, Mr. Gatewood. Did you punch up?
Yep, that's me.
Go ahead.
I figured I could get 2 votes. The ones that most affect the cities that are in my region, Rancho Cordova, Fair Oaks, Folsom, Elk Grove, are the connector and the White Rock Road. We all use that. Rancho Cordova happens to be one of the big thoroughfares for traffic, and due to it not being able to have any other way to get between the two cities, everyone goes in big long circles. So I think that's definite. What they're trying to do is alleviate traffic and smog and all that stuff with this. So I agree with him as he put it as number 2. And I agree that that's definitely like the number 2 for us in our region. For the smaller cities like Rancho and Elk Grove and stuff, is to go with the White Rock Road that basically ties us all together and makes it so you don't have to die on your way to work. And then the Southeast Connector, and I think those are the best projects right now. And then I'd probably go Hazel, Downtown Grid, and South Watt.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Frost.
I was very torn. This is hard because every single one of the projects has merit. And I really felt that the county's projects that they put forward were very compelling, partially because it hits home, because they impact, several of them impact my district, but also because they were leveraged. You know, there wasn't really a whole lot of money that they needed to just bring a whole lot home. So I thought that was compelling, and the cost benefits were compelling because it impacted a lot of people. But at the other part of me was thinking about the Capital Connector, which also really impacts not only, you know, Folsom, Rancho Cordova, El Dorado Hills. It's going to impact Citrus Heights. It's Elk Grove. It's truly regional. And on the other hand, Hazel Avenue, if you really think about it, that's fairly regional too, because that connects Roseville, Citrus Heights, Orangevale, Folsom, Rancho Cordova. So the Hazel Avenue project, when I did my little analysis, it stacked up highly, and my heart wanted to vote for Alberta because I was hammering on the DOT for the last year, trying to get them to find funding for that road, and I still want it. But at the end of the day, based on merit and possibilities, I think the Capital Connector would be my number 1 because they have, you know, struggled. They have the potential for some other funding that could be so important to so many, to our future, and the congestion and the potential for the future is there. And I would probably vote for Hazel Avenue second because it's the second more regional, and it's been an ongoing, it's a project that we really need to finish, and there's not a whole lot needed to finish it and impact a lot of people. And then after that, Alberta Road, and it would go from there. So my 1 and 2 are Capitol Connector and Hazel Avenue.
Thank you, Director Frost. Director Soon.
Thank you, Chair. Like many of my colleagues before me, I appreciate the value of all these projects for the entire region. However, I will echo the sentiments of my council colleague and Supervisor Frost and Councilman Gatewood in the sense that, and Director Hansen, in the value of the Southeast Connector with the regional benefit from the standpoint of all of us have to look at it through the lens of the CTC. And while, we can never say for sure, but if I try to put myself in their shoes, looking at the number we threw out hypothetically was 500 projects, I'm trying to make sure which one from our region will rise to the top. And I think the significance, the regional significance of the connector can't be understated in that regard, providing benefits to so many jurisdictions, including, as I understand, the Federal Highway Administration submitted a letter specifically calling out the benefit that the city of Sacramento would receive by pulling traffic out of that. I visualize it as two legs of a triangle, and the hypotenuse being Grant Line Road. Taking traffic off of those two legs being 50 and 5 or 99 corridors. So I also would rank the Southeast Connector as my number 1. I see the value of the downtown grid as well in comparison with the remaining 5 as the highest value, in my opinion, is for number 2. But I know there's obviously some difference of opinions there. I want to go out on a limb and make a motion that the Southeast Connector be the number 1 project, and then we would proceed with the unofficial, this unofficial poll process for items, the remaining 2 through 5.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, go ahead.
While we're going through this, I suspect that Ms. Smyra is in the back of the room writing these numbers down, but perhaps we should be putting these up on the board now.
Well, let's, I'm not sure we can actually do that unless we have something to give Amanda.
No, but as each one of the board members is talking, everybody's saying what their top priority is. We may well get to 10 of us have the same top priority.
They may be swayed.
Have you been writing down? So,
I have some notes,
we haven't
but I
actually collected it.
Okay.
It'll go pretty fast if we turn in these slips. So we have a motion on the floor. But I actually would like to finish the discussion, perhaps, before we take a second. It's an unusual motion in that it's only for prioritization of the number 1, and we'd still have to go through the poll to get to number 2 and further discussion. So if you don't mind, Director Soon, let's hold off on that and finish the comment, and maybe that'll help lead us further. So, Director Fox.
Thank you.
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I look at this a little differently, I guess, than some folks, and because I live in an area where we have a lot of transportation that goes through our city that has nothing to do with our business, but it's moving through our city, east, west, north, and south, continually, all day long, large numbers of folks. But I also have been very familiar with it, the White Rock Road, the Grant Line, the route to El Dorado Hills, the use of Hazel up to Folsom, and having just gone through this at our last meeting regarding the widening and the sound walls and things on Highway 50, the developing of that corridor, the projects in that part of the county that are foremost, and some of the things coming up, I have to say that the Capital Southeast Corridor would be my number 1, just simply because it's going to impact so many people. Then I get into kind of a quandary of between Grid 3.0, Hazel Improvement, and South Watt. I think those 3 are really challenging for the jurisdictions that they involve. Now, obviously, they're not my jurisdiction, but I look at those and I say, those folks need to get these things accomplished, get them done so that we have safety in the transportation system we have, and we can move the numbers of people that are arriving in our jurisdictions, living in our areas, and working all over the place. It's just not in a central area. So Capital Southeast is my number 1. I'm going to go with Hazel Avenue as my number 2. And boy, between South Watt and Grid 3.0, I'm still debating there on which one I want to look for. That would be my take from just somebody that's on the outside looking into the impact of what these are in your jurisdiction. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Director Fox. Next would be Director Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, again, I think that, the information presented to us both in December and then today, again, in the format more written today than in verbal, I think certainly highlights, a tremendous backlog of needs, certainly in our community. And I think, as a couple of colleagues have said here already, that certainly, the regional application, the various components of multimodal, certainly air quality benefits, cost benefit determinations as it relates to vehicle miles traveled, amount of congestion, where businesses are located, where people live, how they're getting there or getting stuck on the way getting there, I think are all considerations certainly that we've taken into account. And I guess one point I wanted to highlight, and then I'll give my priorities as having thought about this, is that whether it's in the urban setting or the suburban setting or in a area that moves from suburban, more urban through rural back to suburban, the consideration for all the jurisdictions is that obviously it requires not only the match money, but then some additional dollars to get these things done. And some of these had higher price tags. And I would just say that the reason I asked the question earlier today was it was a concern to me that for the amount of money available, ever how we rank them, that that we might very well still fall short with one particular project if that's where we land on this, and that is a concern. And again, I don't know where the rest of that match is made up, but as it relates to the connector project. And again, as I look at the list where folks came in with more modest amounts, obviously with projects that required less overall cost in order to accomplish them, that certainly was running through my mind as to how we might, again, get more projects out of this, recognizing that we're not going to make the final determination, so that, again, whether it's gridlock and or need to make these improvements anywhere in our communities in our county, that we could do that in areas north, south, east, and west. But with that being said, I do think that looking at the various criteria and recognizing it has the highest price tag, that the Southeast Connector would be certainly my first choice on the list. And again, I would just reference it though by if I took the next 4, I could, for the same amount of money, you could get 4 projects with a composite, actually more match available to those 4 projects. Those that came in at $5 million, and recognize that White Rock was $10 million. And so, again, be that as it may, I would rank Capital Southeast Connector first. I would, the Hazel project has been one that's been in the works for a better part of 20 years. And part of the phasing is already underway, and I do think that would be a very important one. Even if the $5 million weren't achievable, I think that what being brought to the table there would allow that project to move forward in phase 3. I would then take White Rock Road as the third, and then Grid 3.0 as number 4, and then the other 2 I'll rank as we get into this. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Natoli. Director Peters.
Ditto on all the other projects are great. I was surprised to find myself ranking the Southeast Connector as high as I did. I am going to go with Hazel Avenue as my number 1 priority. It has been under construction a very long time, long before I represented it. It's a $12.5 million project, and we have $7.5 million already, and so it needs $5 million for just to finish phase 3, and just finishing something goes a long way in all of our districts, I think. It also connects, or is of benefit to Elk Grove, Rancho Cordova, Folsom, Citrus Heights in the way of jurisdictions, and the city of Sacramento, because it takes vehicles out of the downtown grid. So, and I think it's similar to the connector in that. Anyway, I'd rank the connector second for similar reasons, but like I said, number 1 is to finish up Hazel Avenue. And then third, it kind of fits into that whole route back there would be White Rock Road. tried very hard not to say White Walk. White Walk Road. So that would be, I would be Hazel Avenue, the Southeast Connector, then White Rock Road. I think the 3.0 grid is a very interesting project. I think the others are more regional in nature.
Thank you. Director Chenier.
Thank you, Chair Harris. First, just a statement. I mean, I find it very sad that we're fighting over scraps here.
And not very big scraps.
Right, and not very big scraps. And just points out the dire need we have for going back to the ballot, hopefully in 2020, on a new Measure A, and the need for us to work together as a group to make that happen and be successful for everyone. I mean, it's never been clearer than as we sit and talk about $5 million here and there over the next 3 years. For me, I mean, clearly there's a lot of support for the connector, and I do think that it gives us a good opportunity, so I'm fine at that point. I think for me, and I want to agree with my colleague, Mr. Hansen, the grid it really is a regional project. When you think about actually the hundreds of millions of dollars that we have invested in the grid over the last few years and the usage of that area by everyone in the region, coming to the arena, coming to various events, going to the Crocker. We had, I think, a few 270,000 people visit the Crocker last year. So if you think about a regional space and who is using it, I think the grid really can measure up to any of these projects, and they're all good projects, and they all benefit a lot of communities, and we're all kind of looking at our home turf here to see what we can do for everyone. So it's a difficult decision for all. But I think if we're realistic about it, and also the fact that on the VMT and some of the categories, I think it's probably going to be as competitive as anything we do. I think Hazel is also an important piece. So for me, it would be the connector as one, just because I think we have the best chance of getting a match on that or getting selected on it. The grid would be number 2. Hazel would be number 3, and then I don't know if we're going to have to vote on 6 items. I'm pretty ambivalent on the other 4, and we'll leave it to my colleagues who are more in tune with what those would do in their own communities. But it's a tough one.
Thank you, Director Chenier. Director Howell.
As many of you guys have already said, I'm looking at where I think we get the biggest bang for the buck on a regional-wide basis, and it's difficult for all of us to sit here representing certain constituencies, and these priorities are going to disappoint some of us and make others happy. And it's unfortunate that we're doing that for all the reasons that Jay just mentioned. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at this. So for me, the Southeast Connector would be first, Hazel would be second, and the grid would be third.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else punched up to speak, so I'm going to make a comment. Director Hansen, you had something to add?
Sorry, I was
Did
eating a late
you get
lunch.
that down?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
No choking right here. I know there's a lot of interest in all these projects, but I still think how we move forward, I'd ask Mr. Soon whether it's to withdraw the motion or to amend it. I think we've heard some consensus around Hazel and grid, and I don't know from the CTC standpoint if 2 or 3 really matters. I think once you get down further than that, it's really going to matter. But I think it's hard to just move one project. And the thing I'll say is, I think we go together on projects, or we don't go on one project because it's really hard. And for me to support the connector, many of you who've sat through these meetings know what a big deal that is, because it fundamentally goes against my urban planning beliefs, but I do believe it's one of the most competitive projects for this pot of money. So in a sign of faith, I'm trying here to ensure that we don't, because of the numbers at the dais, leave the city behind because the connector has that support. But also, I think we're trying to transcend some of these battles that we've unfortunately had to litigate at the dais, and this is an opportunity for us to break from that and to move forward. So I think, though, if the connector goes up by itself, I can't support that unless it's in combination with some other projects that are really about biking and walking and really about advancing all of our region's values, not just that one project.
Chair, may I respond?
Yes, please.
So my intent for making the motion was to try to save time and avoid the first round of what we just did. So I actually, my motion is probably moot, so I'm willing to withdraw, and we can write down our number ones.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It'll make the process go better. Director Natoli.
Yeah, I guess I would just advocate that we use this. Why not?
I agree. I think we're headed
and then
that
if you
way.
need to do that, there's a good process that you, Mr. Chair, you outlined and working with Norm.
We're almost there, Director.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Because I think this would be...
Just one more suggestion. You might want to kind of write small, because I have a feeling we're going to get these back.
That's fine.
It's pretty clear on what number 1 may come in, and number 2 looks like a dead heat. So if I may make a couple of comments. I agree with much of what I've heard. I feel that Hazel is an important project, and I've really appreciated Director Peters' comment about finishing a project. I think that is apropos. That being said, I agree with Director Hansen and many people here that the Southeast Corridor has many attributes that will look good to the CTC and would probably be looked upon favorably. I would say that almost all of our county roads lead to downtown, and so many people from the county come into the city to work every day and use the downtown grid. I think it's a very important project, and of all of these, it's the only one that actually lowers VMT, not congestive VMT, but actual VMT, and creates various mobility options for a very large number of people. So I won't drag it out. That being said, for me, downtown grid is number 1, and the connector is number 2, and Hazel is number 3. I think it's a very important project as well. So have you all filled out your sheets? So Amanda, will you come up and grab them and tally the results? I think once these are in, I think we're almost there. It's pretty clear where this is headed.
Apparently.
Oh, I see. I have, before we tally that, we have one more speaker in the audience, and can't read the first name. Velasquez is the last name. So if you'd keep your comments relatively brief, please.
Okay, I'll try to talk fast. Sorry, my name is Nicole Velasquez.
Wow. Okay, got it.
I was in a hurry. I biked right over here. My name, again, is Nicole Velasquez, and I am a board member with the Midtown Neighborhood Association. We sent an email earlier today to Executive Director Holm in support of the 3.0 project. In order to be a board member with our association, part of the qualifications or you have to be a resident within our perimeter. So we all live in Midtown, and many of us work downtown or Midtown. So many of us bike to home, to Target, anywhere. So I'm here today to just have a face-to-face and show our physical support as well with this project. We are, the 3.0 implement it should be STA's top priority for the competitive local partnership program. The implementation of 3.0 as a part of the Central City Specific Plan, the city will expand the role of downtown as a region's hub for living, working, commerce, arts, culture, entertainment, and government by providing diverse, safe, and convenient mobility options. We believe this project fully meets all the criteria for the local partnership program and SB1 by reducing vehicle miles traveled, accommodating new housing units, new non-residential development, and new jobs. supporting increased and safer pedestrian, bicycle, and transit travel. We're very excited about especially the bike portion. There's not one of us that hasn't had an issue with cars on a daily basis. Making the Central City a more effective regional employment, visitor, cultural, and housing center, resulting in continued economic growth throughout the region. We believe the plan will create a low-stress bicycle network, complete connections, provide improved pedestrian environment, and encourage convenient transit access, while allowing for continued automobile travel movement. It achieves the goals of SB1 by bringing some of the most highly used roadways in the region into a state of good repair while providing better opportunities for a variety of travel options. And lastly, Grid 3.0 and the projects that implemented it were developed in close coordination with our organization. We are excited to see those improvements get implemented this spring. We urge the Sacramento Transportation Authority Board to make it the priority regional project for submitting the state-local partnership program.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea how long it will take to tally?
Oh, I'm going to read them into the record.
Okay.
And Norm is going to just type them into.
Okay, very good.
Yes. Okay. So we have Fox, and then I'll just read the numbers down. Okay. Yes. 4, 2, 6, 5, 3, 1. Frost, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Gatewood, 4, 3, 6, 5, 2, 1.
I'm sorry, the last two again?
4, 3, 6, 5, 2, 1.
Yes, 2, 1. That was weird. Hanson, I have 1, 3. And then he did not rank the 3 in the middle, and southeast connector is 2. Harris, 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, 2. Howell, 3, 2, 5, 6, 4, 1. Hume, 2, 5, 6, 4, 3, 1. Kennedy, 2, 3, 5, 4, 6, 1. Natoli, 4, 2, 6, 5, 3, 1. Peters, 4, 1, 5, 6, 3, 2. Chenier, 1, 3. The 3 in between are not ranked, and Capital Southeast Corridor is 2. Cerna, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2. And Suin is 2, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1.
So in this tally, lower is better.
Okay, so
But having those 3 in the middle not ranked, well, I guess they're the 3 lowest anyway. Okay, never mind.
That would, right. Mathematically, that doesn't quite work if you're doing it that way, but if we're just getting rid of 3, that's fine.
So there are the results, and personally, I'm not sure we need any more discussion. I'd certainly entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
To accept the results is your motion.
Yep.
We have a motion from
I made a
Director
motion,
Hanson,
Mr. Hume,
second from
Yep.
Director Hume. Any discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Well, thank you very much. It wasn't that arduous as I thought it might be. I appreciate all of you being good sports about it. Last item on the agenda is comments by directors. Anything on your mind? Yes, Director Chenier.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank you and Norm for putting that together. It was rather painless, and hopefully nobody's beating up each other outside after we're over here. You know, and Mr. Chair, I don't know exactly what you're going to do with the Budget Committee going forward. I think that we did a lot of good work, and I think it helped the administration as well.
Definitely.
One of the things that we identified that Norm and Tim have done a great job on is actually putting some administrative dollars aside that this board can make a decision about. I'd like to suggest and recommend that we think about using some portion of that money towards an educational campaign. As we think about the last Measure B and all the mistakes we made, the two big ones were our outreach was not good, and so we have money coming from the city and the county, $50,000 each, to sign a contract to start doing an outreach campaign that Mr. Kennedy and I are working on. We haven't done anything really to think about the educational piece, which we started far too late and couldn't complete because of the time frames and the legality of that. So I want to suggest that Norm come back to us with some suggestions about an amount of money and an RFP that we could put out to start doing an educational campaign within the next quarter or so, so we don't have the same problems as last year.
Clearly an excellent suggestion, so I thank you for that. Norm, how long would it take next meeting?
We could definitely do it for the next meeting. In fact, one of the items that we have planned for the next meeting is a budget amendment to our current budget. We can incorporate that in there, and then the month after that, we will be introducing the next fiscal year's budget. So we can make both of those changes.
So clarify something for me about the Budget Committee. Is the Budget Committee going to keep cycling through, or?
That's your call.
That's my call. Well, I would encourage the Budget Committee to keep meeting if you are able and willing to do so. And perhaps I can sit in with you just to know where you're headed with it. But I think you've done great work, and clearly we need to keep focused on the budget and, you know, the accounting and everything else, and it's all moving in a very positive direction. So I thank you for that.
And I think it's appropriate that the chair actually sit on that committee.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And chair the committee.
Director Kennedy.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of committees, I want to recommend to the chair that we follow up on the discussion that the board had recently and establish another committee actually to look at policies, procedures, and to enhance accountability and fiscal issues and formalize a lot of what has been done by staff, and that we have another committee to do that.
Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah,
I think it's a great suggestion, and running through the experience that we had at Regional Transit and coming up with a set of fiscal policies that we adhere to it now as we move through our budget process has been really important to hold ourselves accountable and for the public to hold us accountable. So I just want to second Mr. Kennedy's idea. I think it'd be a great thing to do.
So Norm, can you spell out for me in terms of creating a committee on STA, is there a minimum number of participants, or?
Less than Brown Act.
Yeah. Just any number less than Brown Act?
8 or less.
Okay. Would anybody care to populate that committee? Do I have volunteers? Director Kennedy?
Willing.
Kennedy, Hume, Soon, Gatewood, Frost, Fox. That was 6?
My only suggestion is it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to know how many people we've got serving on the budget committee versus this other committee.
How many? I believe there are 5 on the budget committee.
Right.
And 6 just volunteered for a policy committee.
Okay. I'm happy with budget.
Okay.
Are you saying one or the other?
No.
Is that
No,
what
I'm saying I'm happy with budget. I don't need to be on the other one.
We're happy to
6 seems like a pretty manageable amount.
Yeah, more than that, it's going to get difficult to schedule.
Yeah, very difficult to schedule, and of course, pushing a quorum. So,
Chair, I'll withdraw and just stay on budget only. That's fine.
okay, very good. So that puts us at 5, I believe. Did you capture all the names?
I have Hume, Gatewood, Frost, Kennedy, and Fox. Is that?
That seems correct. Okay, there you go. We have a new committee, a policy committee, and we'll work on scheduling a meeting. Any other comments by directors? Seeing none, we are adjourned.